Welcome to the Bite Size Brilliance Podcast. I'm your host, April Darley, and today's episode is all about letting go of guilt after death and a grieving incident. So, I do need to give a trigger warning on this episode. We're going to be talking about what happens if you're unable to honor someone's last request and letting go of grief and how to move through guilt and grief. So, if you are in a fresh place with these things, then I just wanted to give you that trigger warning so that you can decide if now is the right time for you to listen to this episode. But this episode was inspired by a Hallmark movie, believe it or not. And if you have been following me on social media for a while, then you know that I adore the Hallmark channel. Okay. I even wrote a blog at Christmas time about 3 or 4 ways that Hallmark is an amazing life coach with their Christmas movies. And you can check that out on aprildarley.com on my blog. But if you read between the lines of some of these plots, then you're like, okay, wow, they give some amazing examples and one liners and great advice. So check that out if you are also a Hallmark lover. But today's episode was inspired by the movie Napa Ever After. And just to give you a spoiler alert, I'm going to tell you about the plot of this. And it is the typical Hallmark, it begins the same way, of a high powered attorney in the big city. She's on the cusp of making partner, finds out that she just inherited her family's vineyard and winery. So she goes to visit it, to inspect it, has every intention of selling it because she loves her career and loves her life in the city. And she did her inspection and she's packing her bag to leave. And then one of the caretakers comes in and gives her this envelope. It was a letter from her grandmother, who she had inherited the property from. And in this letter, Grandma said, "Please don't sell this. It's been in our family for generations. It means so much to me. I would just be devastated if it got sold. No one can love it like we can love it." So then this poor woman feels guilt and now has this little crisis of faith on her hands. Does she go back to her life or does she try to honor her grandma's last request of make the vineyard work, keep the property in the family, don't let it go? So this poor woman spent 1 hour and 55 minutes agonizing over this property. She jeopardized her partnership. She blew through her savings. I don't even know. Maybe she quit or got fired. I can't quite remember. But she had to sell her car. She could not make this vineyard financially profitable because she had to fix so many things with it. And she was going through this guilt and this agony that she could not make it work, that she was going to have to sell this vineyard. And in the last 5 minutes, her dad stepped in with a big old loan and saved the day, right? But other than the hallmarkishness of it, where, you get the last 5-minute Hail Mary of it, stuff like this is happening out there every day that someone has said to you, please do this or don't do this. Please don't sell this property. It's been in our family. Please don't get rid of my coffee cup collection. Like, please take care of this. Please do this. And you might have every intention of honoring that last request, but it may not be good for you to do that because in the real world, this Hallmark woman, right? She jeopardized her livelihood. She completely drained her savings dry. She maybe even got fired, and she tried so hard and still couldn't make it work. Now, I usually will ask my clients to have some sort of afterlife belief because when you have a religious or spiritual or afterlife concept, something you believe to be true, you tend to heal better. You tend to heal faster. You have more optimism and hope about life and death when you have those things in place. Even science has done studies that people who use prayer or have a spiritual or religious belief have better outcomes when it comes to healing. So, quite often, death and grief and healing will come up in my sessions. So, I will ask someone, what is your belief? What happens when someone crosses over into the other side? Because whatever you believe, your brain will struggle to make it true. And if you go back to the Bite Size Brilliance podcast episode number 5, it's called What Does It Mean? So we don't really know what the afterlife is like, but we have a thought process. We make it mean something. And if you have a religious or spiritual or afterlife belief that gives you comfort, that is going to help you deal with grief when you experience it. So, my personal afterlife belief is when we cross that other side, we're going to be losing the human ego, which says, don't get rid of my stuff, which says, I loved it, so I expect you to love it too. I loved it, so I expect you to do whatever you can to make it whole, complete, pass it on, make it a cherished heirloom. Well, reality is like just because you loved a coffee cup collection doesn't mean that I'm going to love a coffee cup collection, right? It's a bit unfair to ask someone to love it like you would love it. Or it's unfair to give someone a gift, but tell them they can only use it in a particular way. That's unfair. And if your loved ones are leaving behind all of this human ego when they cross to the other side, and that other side is a place of pure love and acceptance, it's going to be okay with them if you sell the coffee cup collection, if you sell the vineyard, if you do what you need to do to make your human life better. They're not going to begrudge you that. And even if you and your loved one didn't have a great relationship while they're on earth, my belief is when they're on the other side, that stuff fades away, right? It's all love on the other side. But that's my belief. What is yours? What is your belief? What is the story that you can tell yourself? Because we don't really know. But I want you and your life to be as comfortable and as easy as possible. And when it comes to grief, the stories that you tell really matter. If you tell yourself, my loved one is going to hate me, they're going to be so disappointed and angry with me because I had to sell this property, and you busted your butt trying to make it work, just like this lawyer, you drained yourself dry. And if you're worried that your family's going to think you're a failure, a disappointment, they're going to be angry with you, that is only going to make your earthly life miserable. And I don't think that your loved ones in a loving afterlife would want that for you, but that's my opinion. But the story you tell yourself is the story you operate from. It is the emotional scenery you create for yourself. So the stories you tell yourself really matter. So what are you telling yourself? And you can have every intention to honor their last request, but for whatever reason, you just can't do it. Maybe it's finances. Maybe they wanted to pass away in their own home, but their medical condition deteriorated where that wasn't possible, and they had to go to a hospital or a nursing home. And of course, that can bring about some guilt and feeling like you're a failure, your disappointment. It's natural that you feel those things, but you don't have to hold on to them. Many years ago, a friend of mine gave me a piece of advice that I think is priceless. And she said to me, April, guilt is optional. You don't have to feel it. And the emotion of guilt is very complex because within that guilt, that umbrella that is guilt, you have things like fear, anger, embarrassment, disappointment, shame. There's so many things that encompass guilt. And if you consider guilt is optional, I don't have to feel that. I can tell myself a different story. My afterlife belief is one that lends me comfort and strength. And shame is not love. And if my loved ones leave this human ego behind, they don't care about their coffee cup collection anymore. They just love me. If you tell that story, it's going to bring you a lot more comfort and peace of mind than the other story. So, what you tell yourself really matters. Guilt is optional. You can be a very good person who tried to do the right thing and it just wasn't a match for you in your life. For some reason, you couldn't do it. And if you tell yourself that's okay, that your loved ones also think that's okay, then that is what's going to help you move through that grief a lot faster without making your own life difficult, emotional, uncomfortable, and even painful. So I just wanted to say if that is your situation, my heart goes out to you because that also happened to me. And just like the vineyard lady, my dad loved land. And he said, I'm going to leave this to you, never get rid of it, never sell it. And then he passed away. And so my mom, when it came time for her to pass away, she said, you need to do what's best for you. She's like, I get it. Your dad loved this place, but you don't. And that is okay. So luckily, my mom realized that I was having a lot of guilt and struggle with what do I do with this gift? And it is a gift, right? But not every gift you have been given is a gift that you want, right? That's why we have white elephant Christmas, right? So just know that just because someone else loved it doesn't mean that you have to, and you're not obligated to. Just like you would give a gift to someone else, you don't tell them you could only use this gift in XYZ way, or I'm going to be really upset or disappointed with you. You wouldn't do that to someone. And just apply that same logic, that same principle to an inheritance or honoring a last request. You just can only do the best that you can and trust that your loved ones are going to be okay. And when they're on the other side, they're going to continue to send you their love and support. All right, my friends, I hope this was helpful to you. Please let me know in the comments. And if there's anything you would like me to cover, any topic, I am happy to do that. You can send me an email at april@aprildarley.com. And stay shiny, my friends. You are so brilliant, and I know that you are doing the best that you can with this human life. I see you, I feel you, I love you, and it is 1000% enough. Until next time.